That's just for my audio. Please don't get my tongue. Oh. We're back.
Okay, so Lon, you're also going to do Patty's movie for her, right?
Yes.
That would
Suspect
be
Zero.
Yes.
Right?
This guy fits the Bureau's profile to a T. Inconspicuous, covers his tracks, never leaves a witness. So how did Orion find him? Before we did.
I knew I was right about you, Harold. Next off ramp, pull into it.
Why? Because I wouldn't want to do this at 70 miles an hour.
Wounds indicate he was strangled from behind.
After an extensive search of Harold A. Speck's property, we found the remains of 9 people. This man is targeting serial killers.
You're telling me this guy picks off scumbags. Do you realize how insane that is?
What if it isn't?
Special Agent Benjamin Orion.
He's FBI. You ever heard of a project called Icarus? It's agents trained to see distant locations using nothing but the mind. They call it remote viewing. They use it to track down serial killers.
Remote viewer to commence in 3, 2, 1.
We did it right, you got it all. The way it sounded, the way it smelled. We saw things men shouldn't see. Agony, evil, darkness. We were plugged right into it. That's when we lost it. No one taught us how to turn it off. Are you afraid?
And this was a movie directed by E. Elias Marriage. I think that's how you pronounce his name.
Yeah.
It's sort of funny because I saw this movie at the theater, and the reason I saw it is he had done Shadow of a Vampire, which I was really impressed by. So this is a movie about tracking down a serial killer, or so it seems. Again, a very good, I think, opening. It sort of hooks you right at the opening. It has to deal... Again, I don't want to reveal too much because it's an odd thing. But, picture this. Ben Kingsley just plays this person who just sits at this guy who's just this normal-looking guy at a diner, just sort of minding his own business. He sits in front of him and starts asking him cryptic questions. Then he starts showing him pictures. The guy looks sort of horrified at him and decides he's just going to leave. So he gets in his car and he just drives off, and all of a sudden he sees headlights in the back, and he's getting worried. Then he sees the car drive past him, so he's a little relieved. And then all of a sudden, guess who shows up in the back seat? It's Ben Kingsley. So, to be quite honest, I'll sort of ruin it for you. Yes, something does happen to them. So that starts an investigation.
He buys some ice cream.
To which Aaron Eckhart plays an FBI, sort of a disgraced FBI person who ends up in New Mexico in that department. And he's sort of looking at this murder. He sees something that sort of flags him because his previous case in which he was disgraced regarded a serial killer. And he's sort of seeing something along the same lines. So that flags him. All of a sudden, the FBI are sending another person in to help him investigate it from, I'm not even sure where she's from, but that's Carrie Ann Moss. Mm-hmm. Everyone knows her from The Matrix.
Yeah.
Playing Trinity. You find out too, there's history behind them. Not only were they former partners professionally, but also
former partners.
Romantically. Exactly.
But also former partners.
Yeah, exactly.
They were partner.
But at one point, things had gone wrong because the first thing he does confront her, which I loved in the movie, was he says, "You're not wearing your ring anymore," meaning she was engaged. And I like that because it does show how sort of attentive to detail he is, regardless of who you are. So as they go along, they start investigating, and it's a very cryptic kind of investigation because the things happening to the people's bodies, and they turn up pretty quickly at the opening, is very odd. I must admit, and that's one thing I liked about the mood is set. The killings are bizarre enough to make you feel, at least it made me feel uncomfortable. It's sort of like there's a little bit much kind of thing. And you got to realize, I think this was made in 2004, was it? I'm not even sure.
Oh, I've got it.
So this is, and this
I'm
is,
on it. 2004.
It's like those movies like Seven.
Well, that's what I say. See, this is post Seven. This is post, Silence of the Lambs, right? Where everyone's almost done all the serial killer movies. So they're doing something different. So as the investigation goes on, it really does actually turn into, I think, an interesting story. But then it sort of gets sort of muddled because something almost, I would say it is science fiction, but you can almost say fantastical happens. And that's the part that I have a hard time getting to. But in all defense, I thought the performances were fine. I thought that Michael Chapman, who was the director of photography and the director, they really set a tone and a mood as far as the look of the movie. They set it really like a film noir. I love the sepia tones. The lights aren't working, so they have to use the flashlights. So that, my complaint about Seven. How do you have a team go and investigate when the electricity, so they're all flashing flashlights? But it sets a nice mood for it. And that's what this movie has throughout the whole thing. Because at one point, there's even little themes about little hints you get of something going on because things keep recurring. And you think, now, who exactly is the killer? You're trying to figure out, is it this person? Is it that person? So it does throw at least some monkey wrenches. I just think, unfortunately, it seems to be like a little incoherent. Like there were too many people who worked on this screenplay. Like it wasn't consistent enough. But I have to admit, I remember when I watched it at the theater, as confused as I was, I think by the end, it's like, really, was that it? But this time watching a second time, I actually enjoyed it more because since I knew what was sort of going on, I could look for the little subtle details. But there are scenes, for example, I think don't even need to be in this movie. I think it is sort of overly. I think this would have been a perfect 90-minute movie. If they cut it down a little, I thought that would have been great. But, I can't fault it for too much, except that I really wished it had more bite to it as we got further and further as you go into where the mystery is getting solved and everything. Because what's weird is that at one point you realize, well, that the person that they're chasing, it doesn't even seem to matter anymore. It's like he's just a byproduct of the whole situation. So that's what I said. That's sort of an odd kind of thing. But I think at least it's entertaining enough that it will keep you watching it. I mean, it did me for the second time, more so than the first time when I saw it at the theaters. So,
George?
Yeah, I enjoyed it too. It does get a little confusing, where and also it's one of those movies that's hard to describe without giving it away because there's so much going on.
But it happens.
I was waiting
time.
for I was waiting for Carrie-Anne Moss to go like this, and spin and kick. No. So, but the movie does make you think. As it goes along, because obviously the detective is being helped in almost like catching killers in a way. So, and there's one suspect serial which is like the alpha serial killer, but then as the movie goes, even I was like, who is suspect serial in this movie? It could be anybody. It could be the detective, the helper. Who is this? So it does get confusing. I like that you're right. Like the colors, it has the film noir. It has a lot of the sepia tones, a lot of contrast, a lot of darkness, almost like a kind of like a music video back in the maybe early 90s. So, Rob Zombie. It does have a music video kind of feel at times.
Right.
The cuts.
Or even like the Trent Reznor's type.
Yeah, yes. And or like, so it makes you feel like you're like a dream too. Like you're dreaming that the way that the scenes go back. It has the feel of like how dreams don't make sense. Sometimes the shots come back and forth. Mm-hmm. But, the actors are great. So, yeah, it's hard to describe it without giving away, but it is entertaining.
I was going to say, this is a movie that's so Patty. This is a movie so Patty. It's like, like Seven, Silence of the Lambs, bring them on. She's like, that's her genre she really likes. Now, you would think I would like them because I'm like a detective. And they also like in a little small village in a British detective novel, they kill like 20 people or something.
You're talking Midsummer Murders right there, right?
Yes.
But it's like, they must have killed half the population by now. So many people are dying.
So you would think it's hard for me to criticize because it's just they're not, you just bash them on the head, you know what I mean? It's like these ones, they're very intricate, and what they do is like they're diabolical, also, and that's hard for me to believe.
But I would say the difference a lot of times with those British films or the British mystery and American kind of mystery or detective films is that the British ones, everything is implied and it's very subtle, whereas the the American ones, wow, here's that axe to the head, and let me get a close up on that.
Right, exactly. Basically, yes.
Well, they never just do that. Yeah. They have this whole thing going on.
British is a little more subtle.
They want the blood.
And also the detectives are always very very serious in these things. You know what I mean? There's no levity. They're very, you know, so it's like serious business. And yeah, so I thought for like a serial killer movie, it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. It was like, Patty asked me after, did you like it? I was like, yeah, because I actually was not looking forward to watching it because I don't like serial killer movies.
But for me, it also went somewhere else. I thought it was just a regular serial killer movie, but it did have the supernatural aspects of it.
Yes. So it was more interesting than your average serial more. But like I said, I'm a bad person because I'm like kind of a detective snob. I'm a snob. I just thought it was all right. I could watch it. Like people, Silence of the Lambs, or even though I didn't like the movies, they were superior movies. Do you know what I mean? Even the serial killers were more interesting and diabolical, you know. And I was going to say the other one that I mentioned, Silence of the Lambs. Oh, Seven.
Seven.
Yeah, it was like, it's like, how diabolical can the detective? How diabolical can the serial killer get? It's almost like a contest. You know, it's like how
how creative.
Well, basically, they just want how disturbing can we make the next killing?
Yeah. So there is an element of that, but I'm a bad person because, you know, they're not my favorite movies. But I didn't stop watching it. I was like, she asked me at the end. I was like, it wasn't bad. It was okay. I got it. You know, it was I didn't go like, gee, you know. When can I go to bed? You know, I didn't do anything like that. So yeah, I think you might find it entertaining is maybe a bad word, but
no. I think that is a good word because, like I said, that's the thing. It's watchable. You can watch it to the end. You know.
Yeah. And it's shot
It'll keep you interested. It'll keep you interested.
Because my problem literally is the suspense. By the end, it's not suspenseful. Because I claim it's the cat and mouse game. That's what's not working. It's just the investigation's okay, but there's sort of a weird cat and mouse dynamic that he's expecting things, and then he's being left clues. So you could see they should be having a psychological game with one another, but it doesn't seem to be working. But then it's sort of revealed why at the end.
So there. You'll have to watch it to see why. Okay, so let's score this one.
Me again?
Yeah.
I'll give it a. I'll give it a 7.
You know, I'm really low this week. 6.
No, I gave this a 6 as well.
Okay.
All right then.
We're back.